So you may know Jared Hudson when he ran for office for Jefferson County Sheriff, but do you know all the things that he's a part of and all the things that he's done? If not, then you need to stay tuned to this episode of Alabama Unfiltered with Jared Hudson. It is amazing. You don't want to miss it.
We're literally debating that it's bad that people get to say what they think.
Can you imagine? I'm reading Psalm 144 and it says, He trains my hands for war.
We are on the brink of total destruction of America as we know it.
Let your rebel flag fly.
Welcome into this week's edition of Alabama Unfiltered. I'm Scott Beeson. Allison Sinclair is with me again, and Amy Beth Shaver is here. What?
Like you're so disappointed.
You are here
She's
again.
She's here again.
Well, I'm glad you're here.
Are you?
You're very nice. It's very nice to see you.
Well, let's see. Keep talking. We'll see how nice it is.
Keep on working. Jared Hudson has, for some reason, decided to visit with us again, but he is here to tell us a little bit about all the things that he is doing now. He's involved in some anti-human trafficking stuff, those kinds of things. And if you don't think those things happen right here in Alabama, you probably need to watch the program. Jared, welcome to the program.
Hey, thanks for having me again.
Oh, absolutely. Well, let's kind of get people back up to speed, who you are, what you do, those kinds of things. Just tell us a little bit.
Yeah, so in short, most people remember me from running for sheriff in Jefferson County, right? That's where a lot of people got to know me, and I still see people all the time like, hey, you're that guy that run for sheriff.
Yeah, did you win?
Yeah,
did you win? I know you won.
Everybody
for you.
Everybody that I met actually did vote for me. I probably won.
Right. Yeah.
Right.
No, absolutely.
That's it. I mean, I've not met a single person that has said I didn't vote for him. I'm talking about at the airport, on the airplane, in Lowe's. It doesn't matter where you go. Somebody will say. So that's why I'm growing my hair back out. It's hard to do undercover work, and your face was plastered all over billboards for the last 6 months. So, trying to go back to what I'm doing. So at the end of the campaign, somebody said, "Yeah, you got a bright career in politics." I'm like, no, I don't.
Right. No,
unless God
That's
God
the two
calls
things
me.
they always say. I voted for you, and next time you
next time you get in line. No,
Yes,
unless God
really
comes
go
out of the clouds, I have a Paul moment. I'm going back to what I'm doing. And somebody asked, they said, well, "What are you going to do?" I said, it's kind of like Peter when Jesus died, and he's in the grave, and they said, "Peter, what are you going to do?" He said, "I'm going fishing." Right. He went right back to what he was doing. And so that's kind of what I've done. This isn't anything new. This is what I was doing beforehand, training for military and law enforcement, and then doing operations stateside and outside the continental U.S., which is known as OCONUS. So I just went back to the normal work. But it's kind of a soft opener because everybody likes to hear a SEAL story and a training story. We talked about this a little bit.
Because you were a SEAL.
I was a SEAL, yeah. So I was a SEAL. I was a sniper. I was a sniper instructor. I got med-retired out, went through that process, which is a whole nother story. But and I still teach for the SEAL teams now. So I'm still tied to NSW. I still teach pistol, carbine, CQB, all that. So
have no clue what that means.
Close quarter,
like
shooting, and CQB is close quarter battle, or CQC, close quarters combat.
How'd you know that?
I'm a dude.
Yeah, he's a dude.
Oh. I thought I was one, but I'm not. Never mind.
Yeah, it's just
I'm
like clearing.
out of the chat group.
But yeah, so I'm still tied to the teams in that way, still help instruct, and but obviously very, very rooted in an NSW background, Naval Special Warfare background, even though my career was relatively short compared to a lot of my buddies, 25, 30-year careers.
Right.
Still tied with them. So with that being said, I'll tell a Bud story. Team guys, that's a SEAL, it'd be team guys. They hate Bud stories because it's like, we do not have any war stories, you don't have any real stories.
Because that's the training part.
That's training. Basic underwater demolition SEAL Buds is the training portion.
Okay.
And it's the hardest military training in the world. Most people have probably seen this 234 videos. It's called Class 234. And they actually did it on Discovery Channel where they filmed them going through training. So you can look up some of the stuff they did.
Go back and watch it.
Yeah, you go back and watch it.
Is that where they make you like lay in the water?
Yeah, you lay in the water. Yeah, you get
like
the logs, all that
yes,
stuff.
okay,
Yeah.
I've seen that.
So with that being said, I'm in Buds. We're in I was in a place what's called brown shirt rollback land. So I got injured after my Hell Week, and I rolled back to Hill to wait for the next class. And when you're a brown shirt rollback, that means you've completed Hell Week, but you're waiting for another class so you can catch up. So they have a couple points to where if you get rolled, which means they drop you out of the class for an injury or for whatever, you don't go all the way back to the beginning. You start where you left off. So
okay, good. I was about to ask if you
if you get so Hell Week's when I went through, they've changed the pipeline a little bit now, but Hell Week was the Really would have been the 5th week because you have 2 weeks of NDOC, but it was the 3rd week into first phase. So everybody thinks, oh, with Hell Week, you're done. No, you've got 8 more months of just misery and torture left. So guys go through something called the post-Hell Week blues, where it's like you think you've accomplished something and then you realize you haven't accomplished anything, right? So that's where I was, and I was rolled for an injury, but I didn't have to do Hell Week again. All right. Now, if you got rolled before Hell Week, you had to do all those 5 weeks all the way up to Hell Week over again, right? So you've got guys that will do that, or if you quit or dropped out, you don't get to pick up where you left off. When you make it through Hell Week, that's a staple. So you stop right there, and that's where I was. You're working classes as a brown shirt rollback. You're helping the instructors that are running guys through. You're helping them with classes. So there was a first phase class going through, and we have what's called we'd be like a foreign exchange student, right? So you got a foreigner who would come over and go through BUDS, because BUDS, being the hardest basic underwater demolition SEAL, being the hardest military training in the world, they let them go through the first 3 phases of our training to graduate BUDS, because that carries a lot of weight in a foreign country. This guy graduated BUDS, and we would have Egyptians. We had some Egyptians in some of our classes. We had rock SEALs, which is Republic of Korea. So these are SEALs in the Republic of Korea. They would send them to go through BUDS. Those dudes were harder than woodpecker lips. I'm talking, those dudes were flipping tough.
Really?
Those were tough dudes.
I never heard that
Chief Rue was one of the ones that came up with that. Dude was tough, man. But so the rock SEALs would come through, Jordanians, and this one guy was from one of the stands. I want to say Kazakhstan, but that's not right.
Well, we don't know
it's
all
not
those countries, so just make one up.
Yeah, it's one of those, right?
Kyrgyzstan? I don't know.
Kyrgyzstan. I was going with Kyrgyzstan.
Well, it wasn't Kyrgyzstan, so I know it wasn't Kyrgyzstan.
Pakistan?
I want to say, no, it wasn't Pakistan. I want to say
Afghanistan.
No. I want to say Kazakhstan, but see, the only reason I think of that is because Borat, right? That's where he's from on Borat. And that's not right. It's just that's the first one that pops in mind. But either way, this guy's name, I can't remember his name, but everybody called him Eldar. Eldar was his first name. So when you show up to BUDS, they give you a stencil with your last name, and you take this little paint pen and you stencil all your stuff with your name. So like Hudson on all my stuff, on my T-shirts, front and back, all this stuff. Well, this guy shows up, he gets a stencil that says Eldar, okay, to show you the lack of ability to communicate here. He gets one that says Eldar. And he's got Eldar on all his stuff, Eldar, Eldar. Okay. He has to go to medical, and nobody can figure out who he is in medical, right? They're like looking for his medical record. They're looking through this stuff, and they're like, we can't find, and he just keeps over and over saying, they say, give name. I say Eldar, Eldar my name, Eldar my name. That's what he's just over and over. Like there was a miscommunication, or a misunderstanding between English to whatever he normally spoke. But he spoke very broken English, but we finally figure out it's some ridiculously long name.
Right, they would have wrapped around the shirt.
Yeah, so ridiculous.
Like
but what he did when he showed up, he said, hey, what's your name? Is he submitting stuff? Whoever it was that got him a stencil was like, yeah, no, this is ridiculous. What's your name? Eldar? So they did Eldar. So now he's got his first name on all this stuff. So that's where we initially have an experience with this guy. What they will do a lot of times with foreigners is they'll push them through. Like they won't let them quit. They don't make them perform, because in this guy's case, in his country, he would have been basically an indentured servant to the government if he didn't make it through, because they bring great shame on their government. Wow. So, I mean, it's a different level of stuff.
Right.
And this is what the instructors are telling us going through. And then after becoming a SEAL and working some of this stuff on my own, I see the difference in, there's a big misunderstanding of the hardest military training in the world, right? These leaders of these countries send their guys to go through this, and they don't have a clue what they're getting into, right? It's just torture for 6 months of your life. So with that being said, he's going through training. And I'll try to wrap the story up with this. We're working their Hell Week. And at one point in Hell Week, they put you in the pool, the deep end of the pool, and the pool is set up to be able to dive in. And it's got these ledges, like I'm sitting here. So when you sit, you're sitting in about chest deep water. And that's so you can sit down and get your dive gear on and everything. And then you'll do your dive to check your gear, check your all that stuff, right? So you can sit on the ledge, and then the deep end's here, and the pool's 15 foot deep, 9 foot deep, and then the shallow end where it's, whatever, 4 foot, 3 foot, whatever it is. And it's kind of steps like that. So they got all these students remember, I'm in brown shirt rollback, so I'm helping the instructors work this Hell Week. Got all the students in the deep end of the pool, the 15 foot in, and you're treading with your hands out of the water. You just tread and tread and tread and tread. They'll make you do it for, whatever amount of time they choose to. It doesn't really matter. And if your hands hit the water, they scream at you, spray a hose at you, hit you with a paddle, whatever it is, and get your hands out of the water. And so
this was bare feet, no fins.
Yeah, no fins. This is these guys were at this time. These guys were in their.
I'm done.
They're in their camis, so you're in your regular uniform. It's not like you're in your UDT trunks or in there with nothing. You're weighted down. Yeah, you're lots of weight. So I mean, it's difficult, And I believe they might have even been wearing boots at the time, trying to do it with boots and stuff. So that being said, however it was going down, Eldar is sitting there with his hands out, and you could see that he's not trying really hard, and his joker's staying afloat. Right. That joker had his foot over on his foot was over on that ledge. He was over near the ledge.
Smart guy.
And an instructor said, well, and guys would always try. We'd always say, if you ain't cheating, you ain't trying, right?
Right.
Guys would always try to sneak and cheat, to make it easier. Right. Because I'd be honest, everybody says, cheaters never win, winners never cheat. No, winners always cheat when it comes to suffering. I'm telling you right now, you win however you can. Right. It's not that we love winning, it's that we hate losing, that sort of thing. So he has got his foot on a ledge over there, and this instructor noticed it. I think his instructor Baldwin was the guy's last name. But anyway, he comes over with that bullhorn right there screaming. He says, and puts it right in his ear and says, Eldar, and you hear it key. It says, get your foot off the ledge. And Eldar's got his foot, he's got his foot on the ledge. He looks up, he says, but it is very difficult to swim without foot on ledge. So for that guy, that was, what do you say to that? This instructor, he can't laugh. He has to put his thing down, turn around, and walk off and laugh because that's the point. That's the point. So Eldar winds up getting pushed through. He at least got pushed through Hell Week, and they sent him home on medical and said, hey, you can't make it through here medically. But Eldar's country told him when we figured out what was going on, he's going to, in his mind, an underwater welding school and a language school. So he spoke a little bit of English. He said, and we asked him, Eldar, do you want to be here? And Buzz, he goes, they send me to underwater welding and language school and dive. I dive. He was a diver, I guess, in his country, but he was going to learn how to weld underwater as part of it. That's what they told him. And when we explained to him what we were doing, he said, no, Special Forces, very crazy men. That's not Eldar.
But he did do a little more research on that.
He did, but yeah, that was a pretty funny experience. But yeah, it is very difficult to swim that foot on ledge.
So little known story. I don't think I've ever, because I kind of block it out, but Jared, not you, Jared, my husband, Jared, always wanted to go into the military, but he had really bad eyesight and a bad knee and all that kind of stuff. So like 10 years ago, he decides to go out to San Diego to go through the fake Hell Week that the SEALs put on. Yeah. What is...
Well, they'll have guys that get out and they'll do a buzz experience. So, they got a couple of guys over there that guys will pay money, and business owners will do it to build camaraderie within their team and all that. And that's what it is.
Well,
it's an experience, a buzz experience.
It's a buzz experience, but there's a lot of, I guess, law enforcement, firefighters, or SEALs that are going to, I don't know what it is. But anyway,
guys who are going to try to go be a SEAL. There's all that. Yep.
So Jared decides that he's going to go do this, and he pays money to go do this. And he gets in and he gets out there, and he made it through. He almost died a few times, passed out, waking up on the beach with an IV kind of thing. But he made it pretty far. But when you're talking about stencils, his stencil was Grandpa. That was his name. It wasn't even that. I mean, we were like early 30s, I guess.
Yeah. But compared to everybody else,
he was like, I got like a 19-year-old firefighter next to me. And so I guess, he was
That's
Grandpa.
Funny.
Yeah.
I love that.
But he was like, okay, maybe I'm glad I didn't go. It was rough.
Oh, yeah. It was just a sample.
And it was just the fake one. But it's run by, it's...
they try to make it as real as possible. Yeah, I'd say the worst thing is hypothermia. That's probably the worst. Like, you'll do anything not to be cold anymore. Yeah. It's and you hold your breath till you pass out. That's that sort of stuff. And it's not like somebody's holding you underwater making you pass out. It's like, if you come to the top, you're going home, so you're going to want to swim until you pass out. So,
and then they pull you out, right?
They'll pull you out. Yeah. So, I mean, they give you something.
Pump you out. Then how do they get the water out of your lungs?
So actually, surprisingly enough, and I won't talk too in depth on this because I don't know exactly how it works, but you'll hold your breath for 8, 9, 10 minutes before you take that, big liquid inhale, right? So your brain will pass out. So drowning is actually relatively peaceful form of death, from what I understand. I know for me personally, when I pass out underwater, you're swimming, it's like, oh God, because you're trying to complete the swim, and the instructors are pummeling you while you do it. So you, and I'm like, oh, I'm almost there, and you start seeing that Mario, at the end of the Mario game, where it goes, man, it felt like I had a whole can of Copenhagen in my mouth, got a good buzz, and you're just seeing that light
like,
tunnel out. Like, you start feeling really good, like it's
really,
because the oxygen is being shut off to your brain. It's just like when you get drunk. Well, what it is, it's just a decreased amount of oxygen to your brain, right? So you start feeling that good feeling. Now the point to that point is terrible.
It's awful,
right? It's extremely awful. But once you hit that point, your body starts to go out. They call it shallow water blackout, and so you go to blackout and you're out.
So you don't even know when you suck in all the water or whatever.
No, really? I didn't suck in any water because they woke me up on the pool deck, slapping you in the face. What's your name or whatever, and but yeah, you don't. When you take that breath in, a buddy of mine drowned in training a couple years ago. Two buddies actually drowned in training a couple years ago. They were chaining themselves to the bottom of the pool on a kettlebell and seeing to increase their breath hold, and one of them will be on the surface, one will be down. Well, this guy's chained down and he goes out. So I'm trying not to use their names.
Right.
Brett dove down to get the other guy, and he stayed under too long trying to unhook him to get him off the chain. And he had a shallow water blackout too.
Right.
The first guy was dead. He was dead. They were the East Coast SEAL team at the time. He was dead when they found him. He had water in his lungs, all that stuff. At least from what I understand, what I was told. The other guy was alive. They found him 20 minutes later is when they found him. They'd been in the pool for 20 minutes, which means Seth was probably down there for longer. And I'm just going off the story that the guys told me. I was overseas when this happened. But yeah, Brett was on life support. He was alive, like a vegetable almost. But for a while, after being in the pool for 20 minutes, give or take, from the story I heard. So all that being said, they died, they drowned, but they didn't, it was from shallow water blackout is ultimately what created it. One of them wound up taking a breath of water, and the other didn't. So
wow. Yeah. I didn't know that.
Yeah.
My word.
I don't want to do it, but I didn't know that.
This was an intense opening.
It was very intense.
I got to ask though. So like when Jared, because they had to do ocean swims, do they have somebody that follows you?
I mean, yes and no. So they'll have I don't know for the Bud's experience, like what your husband did. I don't know what they did there, but for us, what they do is they'll set up a buoy and it's parallel to the shore. So you go 300-400 meters off the shoreline, give or take, out past the surf zone, and you'll swim parallel to the shore to the buoy and back. And it's like, for time, it's a 2 nautical mile ocean swim, and so you'll do one of those a week.
So you're not going a mile out and a mile back.
Now you will do those things. Okay. You will do those things, but they'll have boats that kind of track with the students, So we do that, and then the longest we do, it's parallel on the shore. It's I think it's an 8 nautical mile ocean swim. So you go down 4 miles and back 4 miles, and that was
8 miles.
Yeah, that's terrible. Yeah, it was terrible. It might be 7 nautical miles.
What is it again? Shallow water blackout.
Shallow water blackout.
That's what I'm doing.
All right, all I can think about is, do they feed you well when this is done?
Yeah. So, one thing you eat.
MREs.
Like, what are we gonna get to eat?
Well, no, we eat a lot of rice.
Because you just are torching it.
Yeah, rice and donuts, all that stuff. So I would say at Bud's, rice, donuts, anything heavy, carby stuff, right? And you eat really fast, but when you eat, like, they can't deprive you of meals. And the other thing is, you're cold. You're always in a constant state of pre-hypothermia, or you're kind of hypothermic state. So you're burning a lot of calories because you're always just jackhammering and shivering, right? So with that being said, I want to say an average of 8,000 to 12,000 calories a day, depending on is what you're eating, and you're burning through it. I mean, it was, you're burning through it. But you eat a lot.
So is there an average weight loss during that training?
No, actually, probably not.
Are you gonna go do it? Amy?
There's a diet plan in this.
I think that's so interesting because you're talking about all these things and I'm calculating it and I'm thinking, oh my gosh. And anyway, so not only the food, but I'm thinking surely people come out of that and they're like bean poles after
No,
that.
I wouldn't
But
say
then
you're bean
probably
poles.
really strong.
Yeah, I wouldn't say bean poles. Because you're running so much, you are eating a lot and eating relatively good. You do have the weekends to recover, so it's Monday through Friday. Every now and again, you'll work a weekend, but it's hell Monday through Friday. And most time where you get people quit is Monday morning because they're like, what breaks? I say men because there's been no women go through training yet. And albeit I don't think that they will go through training, but when I say men, what breaks a man is the thought of the pain again. It's never the initial like, oh, that looks like it sucks sort of thing. It's like, no, I know it does.
Yeah.
I don't want to do it again. So it's always during that time. So dudes will have decided to quit Sunday night, and then Monday morning they quit. So having the weekend off actually makes it harder. They go home to their wife, to their kids, or whatever. I think it's okay, babe. You don't have to do this because mama sees daddy suffering like this. You don't have to do this. I wasn't married at the time when I went through. I was 19. I felt bad for the guys that were married or had families and their wives were really strong because that was one of the biggest burdens for dudes who had wives, had kids, because when they get home, their wives are like, "Hey, you don't have to do this." Right. I had a girlfriend at the time, and I broke up with her. And she said, "Hey, you don't have to do this. You can just go to the Navy, be a regular sailor." I said, "All right, see you later." Because I've said this is what I'm doing. Mm-hmm. You can't. It makes it harder when you have a family because they're going through it as well. Right. See, me, I went through it by myself.
Right.
Amy Beth, it's like childbirth.
Yes.
You go through it and you're like, I'm never doing that again. And you're like, this is awful.
Yeah.
And then you get to Sunday and you're like, okay, I'll go back. I'll do it again.
True.
Yep.
It's true.
It's exactly like how
that's
it works.
it.
Listen, when you have it without drugs, I'm just
Did you do that? Did you do no drugs?
By accident with one of my kids.
By accident.
But I will.
But you did it.
I did.
Right.
So I the pain, unbelievable. I invite you.
You're a
to
big
that
proponent
training,
of the block
childbirth.
thing.
Yeah, that last child.
That works.
Yeah, I was like, and I will take.
And you had no
right
more
now.
after that one, right?
No.
So after the pain, you were like, "Yep, we're out.
One more.
We're out.
One
We're
more.
done."
But no, I can't even wrap my brain around it. But you answered that question. You were 19 when you went through it, so I think that
makes perfect sense. And we got to take a break and listen to our sponsors. But on the other side of the break, we're going to talk about covenant rescue, human trafficking, some of the things that are going around the world, and the role you're playing in trying to stop some of that and find out if some of it's happening in Alabama. Anything else before we take a break?
No, I'm exhausted after the
Wore out
stories.
from
Yeah, I'll
going
take a
through-
break while we take a break.
You got it.
Okay.
What's up, guys? Brian Dawson, CEO of 1819 News here. I want to take a minute to tell you about my good friends over at Centurion Labs. Cold weather is here, and you know what that means. Colds, the flu, and coronaviruses are running rampant. Your immune system needs protection, and that's why I love what my friends over at Centurion Labs are doing. They're always looking for safe, effective, affordable ways to keep you healthy and at your best. Got a cough, sore throat, or a runny nose? You need to check out their Ninja Cough product. You heard me, Ninja Cough. It contains the strongest non-narcotic cough suppressant on the market with no sugar, alcohol, or dyes. So it's safe for everyone, even your kids. Looking to strengthen your immune health, prevent sickness, or fight off the flu, and of course, coronaviruses? Defender Immunity Boost is for you. It is an all-in-one immunity booster that combines vitamin C, vitamin D, zinc, copper, and quercetin in just one pill to save you money and help defend your health. Having trouble sleeping? Defender PM is a nighttime immunity booster that will help you get rest and boost your immune health. Now is the time to defend your health, save money, and support a company that shares your Christian values and loves this country. Centurion has dedicated the last 15 years to research and develop safe, effective, and affordable products made in the USA that you can trust. For a limited time, listeners of this podcast can get 20% off their first bottle order when you visit centurionlabs.com/1819news and use the promo code 1819. That's centurionlabs.com/1819news with the promo code 1819. Check them out, guys.
Welcome back to Alabama Unfiltered. I love hearing from Centurion Labs. We kind of made up a name for him yesterday, but it's Centurion Labs.
Centurion.
Yes.
And you love the Ninja Cough.
I do.
Have you? You've used it
We've
for a
used
while.
it. It's magical. As a parent, and do you have kids?
Yes, I do.
When they have that cough that you're like, if they cough one more time, I can't handle it. Like you hide from the cough. One of ours had a cough that bad, and that's how we were able to meet. I actually grew up with Brooks, but we met and she handed over some of the Ninja Cough out of the back of her car. Our kids were very little. And she was like, I promise, because Troy told Chris, I promise this will help that rattle trap cough. And it did. And we haven't wanted to use anything else since. I'm serious.
Fantastic.
It works.
Centurion Labs, they have lots of great products. They've got the Defender, which I still need to order, a nighttime Defender, and the Ninja Cough.
Yeah.
That will karate chop. That's what I thought.
It's true.
Apparently ninjas can't cough. But go and there's a discount code, 30% off if you use the code 1819. So go check them out. We're back with Jared Hudson, and we're about to start talking about his human trafficking, anti-human trafficking efforts. There's a difference.
Yeah, no, we're not trafficking people. People's trafficking people.
Here in Alabama, and his work with Covenant Rescue Group. But before we start there, I also need to say he's going to stick around and talk a little bit about his run for sheriff in the Alabama Unfiltered Unleashed segment, kind of what he learned. Would love an outsider's perspective of politics, because you were truly an outsider. So if
weren't we going to talk about why women shouldn't run for office? Wasn't that one of the things
I
you wanted
really
to talk
want
about?
to punch you in the throat.
I thought you wanted to do that.
I have a little ninja
Yeah,
cough.
because women should stay at the house.
Well, I'm just saying that's what you said earlier.
Don't listen to Scott, but you do need to listen to me and go to 1819news.com.
That was good.
And
that was
sign
good,
up
Allison.
to be a member and join the fight, because we want to continue to bring you news that is to tell the truth. And we can't do that if we start taking money from all the sketchy people around Alabama, right? So we have always said we wanted to be donor driven. We appreciate you joining us in that fight. You can join on the website. There's different levels, $5 a month, $50 a month. And that gives you exclusive content, Alabama Unfiltered Unleashed. And actually, I had somebody tell me yesterday, because I haven't watched it because I'm not a member. I need to sign up. So I don't even know what the segments are like. But she was like, it actually is, it has a different feel. It's much more laid back, which I don't know how you get more laid back. But we kind of say even things because we're not on the YouTubes.
That's right.
And
we've gotten kicked off.
We're behind a paywall, so we can really say the things. So join the fight. But we're back with Jared Hudson, and he's going to tell us, because you've always been involved with Covenant Rescue Group, but you just maybe now are more involved, or your title's changed or something.
Yeah, I can just explain how that started, but real quick, you're going to Don Lemon yourself if you're not careful, bro. I was sitting there thinking that. Just trying
what did Don Lemon that just recently
said, a woman's out of her prime.
All of our women are definitely in their prime. How's that?
Yeah.
That was saved.
Perfect.
Saved.
Who could be like Donald Trump? I absolutely love women. Whatever it is, they're perfect. Whatever it is, but just don't Don Lemon yourself.
It's creepy or wrong, and no matter how. Let's just leave that conversation.
Who says it,
it's just
true.
Leave that for the unfiltered. Is that the
Unleashed.
Unleashed? The OnlyFans page of this? Is that what that is?
Yes.
Yeah, absolutely.
Take pictures of your feet.
It's funny. You say,
our feet.
You say that
Fans
because we
only
were
page.
going to call it After Dark or After Hours or In the
Like
Alley.
going
just got
Nickelodeon,
worse
like we
and
couldn't think
worse.
of any words.
The
and
on the
then
corner
I
version
think Brendan
of-
came up with Unleashed. So
Alabama.
thank
The
you,
red light
producer
district
Brendan.
version.
Sorry, I derailed that.
Yeah,
that's
you
that's
really
the thing.
know.
The thoughts that were going through my
You
mind.
got to laugh before you talk about something so dark. So
So with Covenant Rescue Group, my wife and I actually started that. We've had since I got out of the SEAL
you
teams.
started it.
Yeah, so we're the founder. We took about $40,000 of our own money and just dumped it into it to start it. Had a guy working for me at the time, Stan Wiggins, was working for my private company. His wife, Shelly, was really good at getting this type of stuff done and set up. A buddy of mine, Nathan Dye, he owns a plumbing company over in Gardendale, D&M Plumbing. He's part owner over there with his brother and his dad, and somehow with their company, I don't remember how it was, or maybe it was his wife, but he got tied to a girl, and I can't remember her name, who she was a CPA that helped start and run 501c3s. And what drove us to that point was when I got out of the SEAL teams, I became a law enforcement officer. I was a Shelby County deputy. Did that for a year, didn't like full-time policing, started reserving at Jefferson County Sheriff's Office, finishing my MBA and started my business, writing prime contracts to the government, and then just going around and doing contracts and going overseas and doing a lot of work, seeing a lot of human trafficking overseas and working with some OGAs overseas that were dealing with human trafficking. And just had a massive burden, saw massive needs. So then I started doing some stuff on my own with a couple of guys that work with me, and people were just giving me money upwards of like $45,000 that I'm running a business, and I take it to my CPA and I said, Barry, what do I do? I got $45,000. Do I invoice for it? How do I take this money?
Wait, they were giving you money to support your human trafficking efforts.
People that knew me, people that
not just because
me.
you have good hair. It was
no, not because of the hair, anything like that. No, they just believed in me. They knew that I was. They knew I was doing the work, but I mean, I could have taken this money and just gone to Hawaii on it or whatever, right? So I asked Barry. I said, "What do I do? I don't have an invoice." But he said, "You need to look at starting a nonprofit if you have people that believe in you like that." And I had other people that wanted to donate even more. So I actually did an operation in Haiti where we. It was a sting, in short. Bought a prostitute out of a brothel. It's a little bit different the way it works down there. Had the room set up and everything to where it's recorded, and was with an organization. The OGA was not the OGA. I'm sorry. The NGO was a more OGA is like Green Berets and stuff, right?
I was trying to figure all that out.
The nonprofit that was working down there was kind of Mormon based, and me being an evangelical Christian, I'm sitting here thinking, and sorry if you're a Mormon listening to this, but our difference is not the fact that I'm Baptist and you're a Mormon. We actually believe something that's totally different. And so when I hear them share their gospel with this young lady who is freshly tilled soil, right? And you see Jesus in the parable of the soils. Well, the soils are us. We're not the seed, we're not the sower. The soils are us. And so we see this freshly tilled soil that it doesn't matter what you present to this young lady at this point in time. At that moment, Jared Hudson is in her mind, her savior. I'm the one who's got her out. And so when you're there and you've got all the other people in the room, because you have to have it set up to best protect you as well. So, so nothing can ever be said. You're always above reproach on anything like that. Bring her in, you find out that she's being soft trafficked. They're holding her passport. She did come there to dance and work to pay for her kid in the Dominican Republic that was with her parents. She's sending money back, but now she wants to go back, but she can't because they're holding her passport. Terrible story. But she's in the sex worker field, right? She's a prostitute. Well, they present the gospel to her, but it's not the gospel that I know is the truth. Jesus Christ says, "I'm the way, the truth, and the life. No man comes to the Father except through me." And that's where the Lord really laid it on my heart. Who cares if this girl is saved and lives to be 85 years old? There'll be plenty of people who listen to this and disagree with me, and I don't really care, but lives to be 85 years old and she dies and goes to hell because she didn't know Jesus.
Right.
What have I done? Who cares that she was rescued out of this terrible life? What
does it matter if you fix the problem here if eternity is messed up? No, I got you.
It's symbolism without substance.
Right.
That's what it is. And I hate symbolism without. I'm killing your chair over here. I'm sorry.
Totally fine.
And so I got back home. I talked with my wife, and we just took some money that we had saved up. We'll take portions of our income and just set it aside in an account for tithe, for church, for all that. And we took some of that money and started the nonprofit. Stan working for me, his wife Shelly got with Nathan Dye's CPA or however we were tied to her, and they worked and they set up Covenant Rescue Group, and we funded it. Now, the one thing I learned early on was, one, you needed, like my CPA that ran my business could not do the nonprofit. It takes like a special type of CPA or somebody who understands the work. So that was a learning curve for me, even with my small background in business, even having a degree in it, stuff that you never really learn, right? Even with a master's, I never learned how this stuff operates. So I spent a lot of time reading, a lot of time working, a lot of time with Shelly talking, me and Mike and Stan and my wife Lauren, all of us talking us through what it is. In the state of Alabama, you can have one person on the board. Well, the problem is I'm running my company at the time, so we're like, hey, instead of one person on the board, it's not going to be me because I can't. Right. I'm the CEO and owner of this small business. We got a board, so we developed a board, and we picked board members based on, one, my relationship with them and other people on the team's relationship with them, and two, kind of what they brought to the table. So we put a board together, and that board's grown since then. And we just started the organization and started operations. People would donate money, and we were kind of a hand-to-mouth organization. We get money in, we do an operation, and then we just kind of sit and wait for money to come in to do another operation. Depending on what the operation was, it could cost anywhere from $5,000 to $50,000, and with an average of about $35,000 per operation.
So what are these operations? Like, how do you find out what needs to be done? I have so many questions.
So it is kind of what I just said is kind of a loaded statement because there is so many facets to what can be done. We primarily worked overseas. That's what we're looking at. Spent time in Haiti. Went down when Haiti was shutting down, and basically came back and said, unless we have a minimum of, I think it was $6.5 million was the budget that we outlined. Unless we have $6.5 million to create country stabilization, operations. That's all it'd be, country stabilization operations in Haiti. We're never going to be able to impact the human trafficking piece. Now, there's organizations that are down there impacting the human trafficking piece, but for us, I don't want to just cut the grass. Let's kill the grass, right? And so,
right.
We were working with the president who was assassinated a couple of years ago, right? He was the president. He was the guy we were meeting with when we were down there, and without going too much into depth on that, and who else we were tied with our government. We were just trying to get that set up. The Lord just was kind of shutting that down on all these different ends. And so, in some other countries we worked in, the cost never outweighed the benefit. Like, you didn't get a lot of juice for the squeeze. Every now and again you would go do something, good, but it just wasn't, it was so hard overseas, not because of red tape. The red tape's less to deal with, which is why people work overseas. But the cost to make it happen was just too great, at least for an organization our size. COVID happened and it kept us from traveling. So I said, all right, guys, well, we're all tied to law enforcement. We do, got a company that teaches for most academies across the nation. Let's see what we can do there. And so we refitted on the law enforcement side and started conducting operations with law enforcement, basically taking what they call human trafficking, which is not human trafficking. Actually, HSI's definition tells you it's not. Homeland Security tells you it's not human trafficking. We take, instead of human trafficking, what most of these agencies go after is sex workers. And they call that human trafficking. It's prostitution, right? It doesn't mean it's good. It doesn't mean that it's something that we want to allow to continue and that there's not victims involved in it. But what it does mean is it's a lot of symbolism without substance. Every sheriff, every attorney general, all these clowns in political world that was my heartburn with the political world, is there are people who talk but have never done anything. That's what I learned about politics. With that being said, they talk about it, but what they're actually talking about is prostitution, and they're labeling it human trafficking. Well, HSI says no, that's called sex work. That's sex workers, and it's not that it's a good thing, but it's different than actually selling or the trafficking of people, right? Those two different things. And so what we wanted to do is take that law enforcement agency that would label sex work as human trafficking, and really it's just sex trafficking, there's a lot of different levels, and then say, hey, use this same concept you're using to go after sex workers, except we want to go after people who are buying and selling kids. And so we were just cutting a tire off the wheel that they already had, and we're putting a new tire on the wheel so they can drive down a different road. That's all we do.
Why would they not be doing that?
They don't know how.
Okay.
They don't know how. And leadership level, again, that's part of the reason I ran for sheriff. Most of the time at leadership level, most of I would say the vast majority of our leaders within the political realm are self-seeking, and they're obtuse to the reality of the world that's going on with everyday people in Jefferson County, everyday people in Alabama, everyday Americans. They're just obtuse to the reality of what's going on. So I don't think it's so much that there's this big nefarious scheme that they're trying to, they don't know, and arguably they don't care.
Yeah, or they really don't want to know.
Or they don't want to know.
Right, because if they did know, then they might have to actually do something.
They have to do something about it.
I mean, I experienced some of that when we were doing anti-illegal immigration stuff years and years and years ago. And one of the stories was that a little girl in one of the northern counties in the state, was like 11 at the time. I'm sure she's grown now, but she had been being bought and sold between families. And it wasn't, as far as I found out, it wasn't like a sex crime kind of thing. She was literally their house slave between different families, and those kinds of things were going on. And I would tell people, hey, look, the district attorney or whoever told me about this is absolutely happening. And legislators would be like, they just didn't want to know, because if they knew that, they would have to act.
It's funny.
Your stories are probably worse.
Well, and it's funny you say that, because there's two sides to that coin, I guess. One, the vast majority of your trafficking is labor trafficking. That's the vast majority of it. So anybody who, and I tell my buddies that are contractors, they get mad at me all the time. There's some of the largest groups of traffickers, especially with illegal immigration being the way it is. They go down to Lorna Road and pick up a bunch of illegal immigrants, a bunch of Mexicans down off Lorna Road to come work for them, and they'll pay them less money than they would have to pay a person who's an American, right? Who's an actual citizen, not an illegal immigrant. That is trafficking. That is human trafficking at its. Is
that illegal?
Well, yeah. I mean, it's illegal to hire an illegal immigrant. I mean, with my company, anytime I fill something out, I have to show that I don't hire illegal immigrants. Well, then us as the consumer, right? We'll go with the guy who's going to build our house the cheapest. Well, he's buying gotten a bunch of illegal immigrants working on the house, as opposed to paying this guy who's $30,000 or $40,000 or $50,000 more. But I got a buddy who runs hand landscaping, and he refuses to hire illegal immigrants. Now, he costs a good bit more than most people, but he does things on the up and up. Does that make sense? And so what we commonly see is labor trafficking being the primary form of it. But even with kids you're talking about being sold between families, the reason law enforcement don't pick up on it as much is because it's domestic in nature. It's mothers, it's fathers, it's aunts, it's uncles. It's a caretaker of some kind. It's a foster parent. It's somebody that this child views as a guardian or a caretaker. It's somebody that the state might view as a guardian or caretaker. And they're selling these kids, whether it be for sex, whether it be for labor, like what you were seeing, whether it be for, there's an endless list of things that people can be sold for.
Right.
And what it is, you take somebody who's weak and you prey upon that weakness and you victimize that weakness. So again, to upset all the contractors in the area that listen to this, everybody who builds a house around here, if you're going down to Lorna Road and getting a bunch of illegal immigrants because it's saving you money, you're actually preying upon weak people to further your business. That's what you're doing, and that's human trafficking. And so that rubs people the wrong way, but whatever.
Well, Steve Marshall, we interviewed him, I guess, 2 weeks ago. If you haven't watched it, go back and watch it. But what my takeaway from him, a majority of our interview was about human trafficking in Alabama and what his office is doing. But it just I did a paradigm shift that it looks more like grooming, less like kidnapping or abduction. It's very much like this person's vulnerable, a savior, someone they trust comes in, and you just kind of
That's 100% what it is. Yeah. I wouldn't even say that it is kidnapping. Look at the little girl, the cupcake girl that was found, was captured and killed, right? She was kidnapped and killed. Most of the time when you see kidnapping, generally speaking, they're killed. Generally speaking, your kidnapping there's some sort of, I hate to say crime of passion, but there's an emotional tie to it, right? It's not it's not what we think, like what you see in the movie Taken, right? You see that overseas. You see that overseas, but you don't see that here as much. You see what you just mentioned, grooming. I'll give you a real world story. We're working in Michigan. I can't even remember what county we're in, but either way, it don't matter. Genesee County, actually. We're working in Genesee County, Michigan. One of my guys that works with me, Mike Rebels, he's actually the director of operations for CRG. I'll get around to CRG and say, he's probably with me. He's worked for me, and his brother's a builder in the area, Chris Rebels. A lot of people know Chris. Yeah, so Mike is his older brother. So Mike, I've known Mike for a long time. He was my sergeant at Shelby County when I went over there, and then I left, and then Mike left. He wound up retiring out of law enforcement. He works with me full time now, both on the training company and with CRG. So he found we're looking for at-risk people, or girls and guys for that matter, the kids that have been that are missing, right? And so he goes to this house, and long story short, it's a cage in the backyard. He kind of goes back, there's a little marijuana grow going. He's looking at it, and he says, and he sees a girl in a cage. She's locked in a cage in the backyard, probably, a teenage girl, 15, 16 years old. And it was the girl that they were looking for. Her name was Isabella, if I remember right. And he says, Isabella, and she would look at him, and this is him telling the story. I wasn't there. I was at the same operation looking for somebody else, but he's telling the story. She's scared. He's like, hey, I can see you. Unlock the door and come out. So they wound up getting her out. This girl's mom and stepdad, who was living in Texas, and they were in jail. And from what I understand, they sexually abused her mother and her stepdad, or maybe it was her stepdad did and her mother allowed it, but she was sexually abused on that one side of her family. Her father and her brother lived in this area of Michigan that was up there about 2 miles away from where she was captured at in a cage. And they didn't sexually abuse her, from what I understand. They just physically abused, like put cigarettes out on her and stuff like that. They physically abused her. So she runs away. Now this is her family. This is who she has. Mm-hmm. She gets picked up by this kid, this little, kid slinging dope or whatever, 22, 23-year-old little punk slinging dope. And she's his live-in girlfriend. And then he starts selling her to his buddies for sex. And now she's being sold for sex. So now here's the thing. Of all three of those situations, and then the state, you got the state. Anybody who's been in the state system, as a child will tell you it's not a good thing. So I guess there's four options. Mm-hmm. The state owns her. Her parents in Texas own her, which didn't sound very good. Her dad and her brother up there own her. Like when I say ownership, I'm talking about more guardiorship, right? But I mean, that's who takes care of her. Right. She was 15 when she ran away. She's 16 now. She's been in this process for about a year. Right. Or this live-in boyfriend who arguably probably treats her better than any of the others, who's selling her to his buddies. So I mean, of all the options, what's the best option? It's kind of there is no good option for her. And oftentimes that's what we see. It's impoverished communities. It's parents who don't parent properly or appropriately. It's almost always tied to drugs and alcohol usage. Mm-hmm. You just look at, and it's unbelievably sad. What do you do about it? How do you kill that grass? Cutting the grass is rescuing her, getting her out of it. But then what? Where does she go? She goes to the state. Like if we deal with that in the state of Alabama, you got to call DHR. Yeah. And DHR, I think, does the best they can, but it's like when we went to Afghanistan.
She could be put back in the same kind of situation again.
Oh, 100%. Right. It's like when we went to Afghanistan. This SES level FBI guy looked at me and said, hey, these guys are saying this is a great plan. What you're planning on doing? As I'm sitting in this skiff meeting with them, and I said, it's not that good of a plan, fellas. And he said, it's the best of the worst plans. And that's kind of the same situation you have here. Mm-hmm. What's the best of the worst situations? Because they're all still bad. So sitting down with our board, when I sat down with our board and meet, they're like, hey, can we show the reuniting with the family? And I'm like, what? No, this is not what's happening. Right. She goes back to a crappy situation. She gets some medical care, but she was arguably by choice in the best situation she could have been in.
Even though she was in a cage.
Even though she was in a cage during the day. And the reason the boyfriend would lock her back there is so if inevitably a drug dealer,
came by the house.
Well, somebody that was, not on his side, whatever, an enemy comes by the house while he's gone, or if the police come by, she's sitting in the back, she's out of sight. So that was the way of protecting her, right?
Goodness so what gracious. Do you follow up? Do you know, where is she? What happens?
No, I don't. No, I don't. I know that the state of Michigan, from my understanding, took her because she was missing out of the state of Michigan system. Like they'd have to follow up with this young lady. So I don't know.
Wow.
You can't save the world, which is sad enough and bad enough. And you see a lot of this type of stuff going on. You can't mm-hmm. fix it all, mm-hmm. but you can do the best you can. And the biggest thing is if you create a deterrent to where people don't do this, if you create a deterrent to where parents don't do this, then at the same time, how much government do you want to allow in, or how much of this outside force do you want to allow into parents' lives? What really bothers me is when you see how the government goes after parents who are just trying to make the best decision right. for their kids on school, right. but they won't go after parents who have been doing, heroin right. and meth and selling their kids. Right. So again, we get a lot of symbolism without substance. So if Steve Marshall was sitting in here, that's what I'd ask him. What are you doing to make sure at the state level, the government's not overreaching on parents who are trying to come up with school choice, people who are upset about election issues, right? Fraudulent election stuff, people who are upset about things we should be upset about, and spend your time and effort going after real bad guys.
I remember a meeting with the DHR person. I don't remember who it was years and years ago. And I was pointing out, I said, look, this may not be fair. I said, but this is my perception of what y'all do at the state level. You got mom or dad over here who are on drugs and crack and putting cigarettes out on their child. Mm-hmm. And you were spending every resource possible to reunite that child with mom.
Yes.
And then this family over here spanked their kid in the grocery store, and y'all are trying to prosecute them.
Yes.
And it says it's the exact same kind of thing. Now, I'm not saying that's across the board, but that's the feel. And the reason we all have that feel is because a lot of it.
We've seen it. Yeah, yes. Well, we've seen it, and it's like, my honest opinion is what's it? Romans says it, claiming they're wise, they became fools. As a Christian, that's what, claiming you're wise, you become fools. And our government oftentimes is extremely foolish in what it chooses, whether it be at the political level, whether it be the red tape that exists within the bureaucracy itself. They're very foolish with what they choose to deal with. And I would argue that if you want to start fixing the problem, you stop labeling it as something that you can elevate yourself with or win your next political campaign with or whatever. Because I didn't talk, during my campaign, I didn't talk a single bit. Very rarely, I guess, unless asked, did I talk about Covenant Rescue. Some of y'all heard me. Allison, you were probably at more things than I was. Did I talk about it much?
No, you didn't. And I was always disappointed.
The reason that I did not, Mike went down and did an operation with the state and made 5 arrests. Guys showing up to have sex with little boys and little girls. They made 5 arrests. All 5 of those cases, to my knowledge, have gone federal. The U.S. attorneys picked them up, so they've gone federal, and they have state charges. It's an excellent operation, excellent cases, and people are saying, hey, you can make this political. I 100% will not use that as a political tool to get me elected or not. Who gives a crap about that? Because it puts the men and women that do that job at risk, number one, and number two, it takes away from the reality of what it is. Because if it's a political playing chip, it's really not that big of a deal, in my opinion. So that's why I didn't talk about it a whole lot. But that's what these guys and girls, that's what these politicians, that's what these leaders in quotation marks do. They use it as a talking point. They know nothing about it. They've never seen a girl in a cage.
Or they won't even try to find out about it.
No, yeah, that's and they'll give you a lot of talking around, but what they'll do is they'll go after people who aren't really doing much, like you talked about. That's what I've seen. The person who spanks their kid in the grocery store, they're going to go after them, or the person who doesn't want their kid to be taught by a transgender teacher that, transgenderism is okay, all this weird crap. But this heroin addict over here, and every cop in Jefferson County can tell you what heroin does. This heroin addict over here, this fentanyl addict that has fentanyl in her purse, they're trying to reunite their kids with them. It's absolutely insane, and that's where human trafficking thrives. Beyond sex work, that's where human trafficking really, really thrives. So, with the organization in a nutshell, we do 3 things now, 3 types of operations. One, we have stings. So we go partner with law enforcement to either infiltrate the consumers. So we're gonna basically see, y'all seen Chris Hansen to Catch a Predator thing, right? So we call it the kidnapper predator because we're not just gonna put them on camera. They show up, we snatch them, we arrest them, we hook them up, and they're gonna get prosecuted. So that's one sting. If it turns into a reverse sting where we can flip somebody or get information of somebody selling kids, we'll go as a UC. Or somebody go as a UC, whether wired up, run yourself on whatever, and we'll buy a kid, right? Or try to buy a kid. And then the agency, and we partner with law enforcement on those. We partner with law enforcement on those, and that's an arrest right there. And you actually save a kid, albeit what does it look like? Who knows? But you save a kid, and most of the time it is an aunt and uncle, a mother, a father, step parent. It's somebody who's a guardian that's selling the kid. And then on the other side, we have rescue. So we're partnered with Well House, Trafficking Hope, as their aftercare type organizations where we try to effectively and securely, outside of law enforcement, we're not looking for any criminal activity, get ladies in the sex worker field, not so much human trafficking, sex worker field, in front of the advocates at Trafficking Hope to be able to talk to these ladies, give them spiritual, mental, emotional, medical, all these things that we can't do. I can barely do it. I've got 3 kids. I got 3 girls and a wife. I can barely do it with my 3 girls, much less another one coming out of sex work. Right. So the point is these ladies, this is what they're good at. Yes. They can do this. And so they talk with them. The only time we put our law enforcement hat on in a rescue is if a kid's involved. If a kid's involved, we have to put our law enforcement hat on and then work with the local agency. So those are the 3 things we do. And then constant investigations. We're always doing investigations with our tools that we have at our disposal as law enforcement, and then as open source, which is called OSINT. We just investigate to target people who are, whether it's ICAC or whether it's actual trafficking.
Very good. Well, thanks a lot.
Wait.
We got to do the next segment.
No, I have one more question.
Don't you want to save it?
Yes,
People want to hear this question.
Oh my gosh, Scott. No, this
is
is good. You have to ask this.
This better be really good.
Okay,
it
very
is.
good.
Okay.
Okay, how can we help you? Help me help you.
Help me
Like,
help you. Yeah. So since you pulled a quote from that movie, show me the money. Right? We do have a lot of donors that provide a lot of support. Garnered a lot from this area, from the campaign, that wanted to learn more about what we do and get involved. But the biggest thing is the cost. So CRG hired me. I'm the founder, started it. We've just been going hand to mouth. Well, this year we had some donors come from the campaign that allowed them to bring me in full-time as the executive director, Mike Rebels full-time as the director of operations.
But where do they go to find out how to get to you?
Oh, covenantrescue.org. Covenantrescue.org.
We'll put that in show notes too.
Yeah, absolutely.
And you can read what we're doing, and we're going to start. I sent you the newsletter that they're starting to do, just to show once a month what we're doing operationally, so you can keep track of what we're doing. Hey, we got this many arrests, or we rescued this many, or whatever it is.
And you can subscribe to that on.
If they reach out and send us a message, hey, just on the website, just send a note. Hey, I want the newsletter.
Update,
So they get their email, and it will go out to the email every month, and then it'll also be
Absolutely.
on our social media.
Okay.
Good deal.
That's very good.
All right.
I get fired up. I love
You do.
this.
This is
I
great.
think it's good. I mean, I can't do it. And actually, I was telling you, I have a hard time thinking about it because we all have kids, and it just, like, I could cry. But it's something that we have to talk about. And it is becoming more and more prevalent and more common. You know, we live in North Shelby County, but it's there. It is there. You think it's not, but it is.
Well, as society unravels and drugs and lack of morality and lack of Christianity, I mean, it's just going to get worse and worse and worse. And not everybody can do it, but Jared and them can and are. So we need to support them.
Thank
Absolutely.
you for what you're doing.
Yeah, thank you.
thank
And
you.
for all of you watching, don't forget we got Alabama Unfiltered Unleashed, which is extra. If they do what? They have to join the fight and go to 1819news.com and become a member and support what we're doing, because we're trying to stay independent, and we appreciate you for doing it. So those of you who can, stick with us for that part, and everybody else.
How much is it? How much is Alabama Unfiltered, the Unleashed?
Well, you can give $5 a month. You can give $10 a month. You can give $18.19 a month.
Up to $50.
And then up to $50.
So
It's different
Different
levels.
levels. of
there's
support.
different levels. But
There's different levels.
So you can even do it for $5.
You can do it for
minimum of
$5 a
$5.
month.
That's dang near free, folks.
Yeah, it is.
Dang
But I'm
near.
like, you
He
know what?
said.
If 10,000 people give $5 a month, that's $50,000. We can take the show on the road.
We have
can
so many
go
plans.
on a rescue.
If you tell people that you're going to be out and about, if we raise
But we
enough
can
money,
report about it.
But we could report.
can
I don't
Report
know.
about the rescue.
We can report about
or give us money and we'll keep Allison here. That would matter.
Or
People
they'll
may
get
pay
rid
for
of me and
that.
hire somebody better. Is I
That's
think what
not
you mean.
true. No, it's not. So anyway, thank y'all for watching. Tell other people about the program. Make sure you sign up for all the podcasts, and we'll catch you next time. See y'all.